There are powerful life stories in places and in ways that none of us could ever predict. I guess that's kind of what makes them powerful. And our featured guest today certainly has one of those stories. His book has a powerful title. It's called Chase the Light, The Gruesome Art of Becoming Unbreakable. That is a subtitle that I have never heard anything quite so gripping. So you know there's a lot behind it. So let me officially welcome in Cesar Perez into the Big Impact for the first time. Hi, Cesar, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm telling you, that's quite a turn of phrase there with the title of the book, and we have a lot to dig into, but my understanding is that a younger version of Cesar was an aspiring and fast rising actor with a pretty promising career, right? So when did you first dream of acting?
For me, it was I've always been a passionate storyteller, whether it was from conception all the way to production to post-production. So for me, that's why marketing and digital media was my focus when I graduated, when I went to college, because I knew there was always a marketing message or a message you needed to get across, a story you needed to convey to the audience. So I always wanted to be part of that creative process. And so honestly, I would have been okay 100% if I had just been behind the cameras, behind the scene. But then noticing how also the actors, how they brought the story to life, I was like, I want to try this. I want to give my shot at this. I know I could do a great job because I've always wanted to bring a story to life. So it was honestly after college or around college, I would say that it hit me, and I was like, I want to chase my dream.
Now, sometimes when a young aspiring actor shares that kind of a dream with his family, they look at him like, yeah, well, maybe a real job would be a little more. So what was the reaction like when you shared that dream with your family?
No, they were always supportive. That's the thing. Like my family has always been supportive, but they always made sure that I always had more stuff. Like I didn't put all my eggs in one basket. That's why my mom would always make me go to guitar lessons, trumpet lessons, sign language lessons. All these different talents so I could always have something to fall back on. Not that I would need it in her eyes, but she always wanted me to have something. Should the worst happen.
Did you ever have that chance to take us to a stage or in front of a camera and feel the electric interaction between the performer and the audience in some way, shape, or form? I mean, anybody who's ever had that time, some people fear that, by the way. For a lot of people, the idea of acting or the idea of being on stage is the most terrifying thought they could possibly have. And for others, it's a charge, it's an adrenaline rush. Did you ever get to have that?
Yeah, no, for me, like the first time I was on screen or on set, I would say, like in front of the cameras, I thought I would be nervous. I thought I would be anxious or have like fear or anything. But in reality, I was calm, and I was like literally just running my lines and trying to figure out, all right, what would the director want in this shot? Like what would bring the story to life? And so that's when I knew also, like once I didn't get the shivers and I didn't get scared, I was like, all right, yeah, this is my zone. This is where I'm meant to be.
It's hard to, I think it's hard to describe for those who have no desire to be in a public communication setting, whether it's as a motivational speaker, a broadcaster, like the things that I do, or an actor. Because for those who don't want to do it, there's nothing you can say to them that would convince them that it's really pretty cool.
Right. Yeah.
But it really is pretty cool, right? What would you summarize as maybe your coolest experience as a young actor?
For me, it just it wouldn't even be just one particular role or one particular scene. It was just the fact of, acting with, different actors, but helping bring that message or that story across, and then rehearsing our lines. And then once the camera's cut, right, we're back to our normal selves. We're playing somebody, we're playing a role, but it's as soon as the lights come on, it's all right, we're in that role. Like nobody can move me out of that position. And it was just fascinating seeing other people who are, actors, they've been actors for several years, how they went about it. And you just learn as you go as well. So that was a beautiful aspect of it.
So during those days when young Cesar Perez would put his head on the pillow at night and have these dreams of being the star, What was the dream? What was the top end, the one that you could only imagine as you were going to sleep at night? Was it accepting an Oscar? Was it taking a bow in front of an audience at a what was it?
I always told my parents, I was like, hey, whenever I go get my Oscar, I'm bringing you guys on stage. It was like, I would say a running joke, right? Because I would say it often. But honestly, when I went to sleep and if I thought about my goals and my dreams, my actual goal was to one day direct my own film, like be a director. Because again, being a passionate storyteller, I wanted to convey my story how I wanted it, and I knew only I could convey those emotions that I wanted. So that was the dream, and that's still the dream.
Yeah. So the moment where they say, and the Oscar goes to, and they open the envelope up, it's Cesar
Yeah.
Perez, and
Mhm.
come up and hopefully in that opportunity, that dream, Will Smith did not come up and slap you at any point.
Right, right.
And the family was there to come
Yeah.
celebrate with you. And all of those things are powerful goals. And I'm glad you said that that's still the dream, because even though we're going to kind of take the turn in your story that heads towards the tragic side, you still have that dream, right? So we'll get to that. We'll kind of put a bookmark on that and come back to it near the end. But there was a moment. There was a moment where everything in your life changed. And, there are times when all of us, can self-injure ourselves, right? We can make a bad decision.
Right.
Isn't that what happened to you? This
Yeah.
this was completely out of the blue. So walk us through that moment where your life changed.
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest part, like accepting that what happened. Obviously, you weren't having fun, you weren't doing anything, like you were just minding your own business. I was on my way to go see my girlfriend at the time at college, and I was driving on I-16, and I was heading to go see her and then my family in Savannah when a drunk driver driving westbound on eastbound lanes hit me head on, going 70 something. I can't exactly remember the mile per hour. And then he spun me around, and a big rig hit me head on, going over 70 miles an hour. And that's when everything came crashing down. My world went black.
You got hit by two different vehicles doing 70 and head on.
Yeah.
How much of that do you remember versus how much of it was told to you later?
All of it I remember from what was told to me from the accident. So I remember everything up until the point where I saw nothing but lights. I saw the car immediately in front of me veer drastically right. And then I saw the headlights, and that's it. And then from then on, I'd say like three weeks is what I don't remember. Even though I was kind of conscious, but thankfully I remember everything before the accident and from when I woke up at the hospital.
Okay, so okay, so all that happens, and your lights turn out pretty quickly, right? And things are being told to you later after the investigation and all that. What was the damage to your body?
Yeah, so I obviously didn't know this until after all the doctors told me. But my femur in my left leg was protruding out of my leg. I had ligaments torn on my right leg. I had a brachial plexus injury on my right arm, which paralyzed my right arm for over 2 years or over a year. And then everything in my face was broken. When I went back to talk to the paramedics, they said that when they found me, I was spitting out my teeth and my jaw was split in half and I was hanging. Yeah, I'll stop there to not be too gruesome.
Well, but it went beyond the external. Yeah, your face was busted, and nobody wants to see that. Really think about that, but there's more to it, right? You lost some other abilities. Some paralysis was part of this, right?
Yeah. And then on top of that, the biggest thing, well, for me and in my recovery was my brain injury. So I was diagnosed with a severe brain injury from when I guess the huge impact that I received on my head. Because when the first impact hit, obviously the airbags deployed, but when the big rig hit me, there was nothing to protect me. So my face took everything.
As you and I sit here and talk right now, I would guess that if I hadn't led you into the story, and our audience was just listening to the conversation, they wouldn't have any idea that you had been through all of that. Those who are watching us on our YouTube channel see a good-looking young man. Those who are just listening hear a guy that's really, really well spoken. I have to think that when all that happened, there was a fairly long road ahead of you to recovery that led to how we're communicating now. Can you take us into what the extent of the damage was and where you were versus where you are right now?
Yeah, it was a long road. I think even because I was at the hospital for 3 months. And then when I got discharged 2 days before my birthday, I believe. And then I was excited. Everybody thought, all right, he's leaving the hospital, he's gonna be okay. But things were just beginning. Like recovery was just beginning. And it was hard for me to capture just because of the severe brain injury. And because of the severe brain injury, my emotions were rampant. Like I didn't have anything that would stop me from crying, stop me from getting angry, stop me from getting, I didn't get happy most of the time, but it was just, the emotions were just so wild to me. And I guess because the frontal lobe, it directs like your function and also your personality traits. So a lot of that was a little bit impaired. And then aside from that, just I couldn't walk. I couldn't really move my right arm for several months, actually over a year. And then I couldn't talk. So I was intubated and I had a trach tube because everything in my face was broken. So my mouth was wired shut with metal for several months. And then, so I had to get my nutrients through the feeding tube. But this whole time, I didn't understand really what had happened. So the first thing I asked was, how did I get here? Why are we here? I just wanted to know some answers. And slowly, my parents would start telling me, what had happened. And then I started kind of putting pieces here and there together. But all this time I hadn't seen my face. I hadn't seen who I was now after the accident. Because I wear glasses or I could wear contacts, and I didn't have any glasses during my time at the hospital until one day my friend brought them, and I couldn't wear them because my nose was busted. So I had to heal. But my dad and him put it on my hat so I could wear it without it resting on my bridge. And then I saw myself as I went to the bathroom one day with my mom. And what I saw in the mirror just broke me way more than even the accident had, just because I didn't recognize who that was. I didn't recognize who was looking at me in the mirror. And that's literally the only time where I thought about suicide, as depressing as it sounds. But I didn't want life if this was how it was going to be from here on out, especially after trying to do the right thing all this time, and then this happens, not because I was looking for it, but just out of random, just because somebody wasn't responsible and got on the road drunk. So it was painful. And that's when I had huge conflict with my faith. So I rejected everything. I didn't want nothing. I didn't want life if this was how it was going to be from here on out, So I think that was the most painful part. But then realizing that when I saw my mom and my family beside me day and night, and when I told this to my mom, when I wrote it down, she looked me in the eye and said that she understood. She would feel my pain because all she ever did was ask for God to protect me, ask for protection of her family, and to see your only son on his potential deathbed, and I'm the youngest of three. So it's like I'm her baby, and it's not something any mother should go through. And for that reason, I realized that she would have been broken, but her break went a lot deeper than what mine did, because everything she believed in had been broken, And so that's why I realized I couldn't break down for her again. And I had to keep going. If it wasn't for me, because my life felt meaningless at the time, seeing them and everything they were sacrificing to give me a fighting chance gave my life meaning, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And as a parent and as a grandfather, you would do anything to keep your kids or your grandkids from suffering. You would do it. You know, if mom could have jumped in front of the truck,
Right.
she would have done it. She's probably told you that since.
Yeah.
It's really, really powerful. And I'm trying to get a timeline context as well for this, Cesar. So we're talking in August of 2022. When did all this happen, and how old were you when it happened?
I was 24 and I turned 25 when I got discharged from the hospital. But the accident happened on January 12th of 2018. And I believe it was a Martin Luther King weekend. So it was a long weekend. And I had surgeries upon surgeries for the following years. So like I couldn't go back to work because I would go in for a week and be out for months, you know. So and then on top of that, the job I did have at the time, they sold off all their media, so there wasn't really a branch for me to go back to. So it's just like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and so it was kind of I needed to find some light in the darkness, you know, and that's kind of like what at the end of the day drove me to title my book as such.
Yeah. So all of this is coming at you at an age when you're still trying to figure out life, right? It's not like you're in your early 50s and you've at least started your career. You're still trying to get your legs under you. And then in many ways, they're kind of cut out from under you when all
Yeah.
this happens. Do you have any idea today whatever happened to the drunk driver that hit you?
Yeah, well, going off that, like I had gotten to a place where I had told my parents and my family in 2000 at the end of 2017. I held them close and I was like, because I had projects lined up and movies, you know, auditions for next year. I held them close and I was like, everything I worked hard for is paying off. Like this is why you guys brought us to the U.S. And so I felt good. There was nothing but promises for 2018, and unfortunately, it left them all unfulfilled because of this drunk driver. And this drunk driver, I went to go to his criminal trial in 2020, I believe, or the beginning of 2020 or ending of 2019. But I went to his criminal trial, and I had never met this guy before. He had never met me. It was just like a random individual. And it turns out he was from the same place I was from, you know, like back in El Salvador, where I was born. So it was just like pouring salt on the wound, you know, not that it would have mattered if he had been African American, white, whatever. It would have been the same pain, but just the fact that I've tried to be the best person I could be and try to shed a good light on Latinos and everybody. And then this guy just complete opposite, you know? And so it was kind of, it hurt seeing him, you know, when he walked in with his orange jumpsuit and my height, my build. I was like, that could have been me, you know? And thankfully it wasn't, but unfortunately, I got to talk to him, and I told him that the last thing I wanted to see was somebody from my country be behind bars. So it was his turn to man up and take responsibility like I did, because I was like, I could have gone into my own depression and like gone to drinking and everything, but I decided not to. I decided to put all my energy into getting my life back that you took from me. So just whatever justice, or if there's any justice, I told him, whatever they say you're sentenced to, just take it, you know?
Mhm.
And so that was all I could say, because then I broke down and I started crying, and that was it.
Just curiosity, what was his sentence?
He, from my understanding, he was going to serve 8, but he had already served 2 at that time. So he was only going to serve 6 more.
You know, it's there's so many different emotions that come up when I hear your story, and one of them is anger. Obviously, you had.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to go through that as well. I'm an outside. I'm a stranger hearing the story, and it makes me angry. So, what did you do with the anger? I know that you had the sadness, and I know that your family helped you through a lot of the depression. What did you do with the anger, the rage? I mean, your life was forever changed. What'd you do with the anger?
I harnessed it and focused on my energy, try to keep what I really wanted to do was keep all the bad thoughts and all the bad emotions away, because they weren't helping me. they were just making me wish, oh, that this guy had, suffered what I did and stuff like that. So it wasn't helping me. And so I started focusing all that energy into, hey, let's go out for a run. Let's see if I can move my arm today. Let's see if I can do some more therapy. Always pushing the envelope to try and see if I could get anything back of my life before, at the end of the day, if I didn't, I wasn't any worse off, right? Like, but if it did happen, that small sliver of hope kept me going. And so at the end of the day, I knew that if I didn't get better, it wasn't going to be because I didn't try. Like, I wanted to give it my all. Because at the end of the day, people would be able to say, hey, Cesar is unbreakable.
I'm not laughing because anything's funny, but I'm reading through some of the biography and the background of the book, Chase the Light,
Yeah.
Gruesome Art of Becoming Unbreakable. And there's this paragraph. It's a long list of your injuries. You started to go down some of it. And then it says,
Yeah.
in the midst of it all, his girlfriend left him.
Yeah.
One that he had been on his way to see that same night. And I'm like, oh, come on. How does the story get any worse? So
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, so the weird thing, it's hard explaining to anybody who hasn't experienced a brain injury how it feels like. And I know they're all different, but for me, what it felt like when I woke up in the hospital, all I had, it was like a scratch disc. All I had was, I was going there to see my girlfriend. That was it. That was all that kept replaying for me. So if I loved her before, like, she became my world, so it was like, I would have jumped off a bridge for her if that would have made her happy, so it was weird. Like, that's how bad my emotions and my everything in my brain was. Because I couldn't even see my parents until like much later, like that they were there, they were providing and everything. For me, she was everything. And so she kept me going at the very beginning, like I was gonna make it out of it for her, for us. I wanted her to see that nothing had changed in how I felt. But at the end of the day, she said she hadn't signed up for this. So I mean, everything was great when when movies and everything was happening, right? But when it happened, she broke it off the day before I went to go see the drunk driver for the criminal trial, and my parents were freaking out because they knew it was going to be an emotional roller coaster for me, and they just wanted me to be on my best behavior, and I needed to be on my best behavior because I didn't trust myself at that time, right? Because my girlfriend had just left, right? Everything who I was, it was nowhere. And then I'm gonna see this guy who was the reason why my life was changed forever. So it was very emotional, but I handled it the best way I could. And I'm really proud that I made it there with my family, got out of there, and never saw the guy again.
okay, I'm gonna ask you a hard question here. All right. It's not in the notes.
Right, go ahead.
All right. Do you hate that guy?
No.
Why not?
Before, yeah, 100%. But now that I'm on the other side of everything, and I did say I was going to get everything back that I had lost. It's more like now I have a purpose. No, let me scratch that. I had a purpose before, but now I have like another perspective on life, and I want to share it with everybody else. Like, I don't hate this guy because I saw what hate and those negative emotions caused during my recovery. It wasn't helping me. So now I don't spend any time with negativity or any negative thoughts. All I want to do is focus on pushing myself every day. Even this morning, like today, I wake up at 5, go running 3 miles, not because anybody asked me to or because I need therapy. I do it because that's who I was before, and I keep pushing myself every day. So no, I don't hate this guy. Neither does my family. And my mom, I speak to her today, and she says that would totally be different if I wasn't here, but because I'm alive, she can let it go.
It's pretty amazing, to be honest with you, to hear you say things like, I get up and go for a run, because after describing the intensity of the accident, the fact that not only are you alive, but that you're able to go for a run is pretty darn amazing.
Yeah. And then, I mean, the thing is, like I said, I don't focus on any negativity. Like my perspective has changed. My mentality didn't, but my perspective did. In the fact that now, like what used to bother me before, or most of us, like let's say we go to a grocery store and we don't find a parking right in front of the entrance, right? We get frustrated or whatever. But for me, I purposely park all the way in the back because I enjoy the walk. Like I was so close to not being able to do that, that now all those little things mean so much more to me.
Hmm.
And that's how I take it. I never take the elevator. I take the stairs because I don't need it. I needed the elevator at one point, but now thankfully I don't, so why not take the stairs, do what everybody else thinks is trivial, but for me, it's a blessing, truly.
Okay, so Cesar, I want to dig into this powerful phrase. I mean, if you were able to come up with the phrase, the gruesome art of becoming unbreakable, then you ought to sell 1 million copies of this book, because that is one of the most powerful, packed phrases I've ever heard. I don't know why it's grabbing me like it is. So I think I have a feel, and I'm thinking our audience has a feel for what you're talking about when you say becoming unbreakable, because all these things piling up could have easily crushed you and broken you. Why is it a gruesome art? I love that. Love those two words just because of their power, the gruesome art.
And then just like they're opposite, like they're like the juxtaposition of both things. And I just, it was the perfect way to describe it. Because for me, now that I'm on the other side of things, right, I see that there is an art to it. But then when I go back and recount all the events, everything I went through, the pain I felt during those times, it was not pretty. It was definitely gruesome. And in my book, I also state, I don't think, I'm a strong believer that you don't need to be broken to understand what brokenness is. And so that's why the purpose of my book, right? Like hopefully people can learn and people can find their light, and hold on for one more day so they don't have to feel or go through everything that I went through. Like I said, my two trucks to the face could be your recent unemployment, your recent illness, but there's always a chance to, if not see clear skies, at least make them a little less gray. And that's what I want people to do, because life is still beautiful despite trauma and scars.
I'm a big believer in the Lord, and that He has a plan for everybody, and that nothing happens by accident. There are accidents, but they're not a surprise to our Creator.
Yeah.
And there are so many times when it makes no sense. Why would a young, aspiring, healthy actor, everybody loved, why would he have to go through all this? And some people would scream, they pound their fist and say, why would a loving God do this?
Yeah.
Then I hear Cesar tell his story and encourage other people through it. And I'm not pretending to know how the Lord thinks, but I start to think maybe that's why. Maybe it's because maybe God's plan and His timing is that Cesar would impact even more people through this story than he might have through his professional acting career. And I don't know where you are in the world of faith and connection to the Almighty. That's kind of where I come from. Is that a crazy notion on my part?
No, I don't think so. I mean, a lot of people at the hospital would always say, hey, God has a bigger plan for him. Or they would tell me, hey, this was for a purpose. But I don't think that it was for a purpose. And for some reason, like I like when I rejected my faith for a bit, afterwards, when I came back, I realized that I never was alone, and even in those moments when I thought, hey, why did this happen to me? I survived. I coded on the paramedics 5 times. Like, who does that? Who comes back after 5 times? And then my sister, somebody got in touch with her that was driving behind me, and they said they had kids in the back, which obviously wouldn't have made it if they had gotten hit. So at the end of the day, I'm like, if I help save a life, then I think it was worth it. Maybe I don't think I was meant to take it, but I was strong enough and built enough, to take it and at least overcome it. And that's the message that I want to get to everybody. And now that I've, made peace with my life, my faith and everything, I can see the beauty that there is still in life.
So as we speak, Chase the Light is available everywhere books are available, and on Amazon, it's already a bestseller. And you were telling me before we started recording that you've been hearing from readers who've been reaching out and saying thank you for touching me, inspiring me, and helping me to get a bigger perspective on some difficulties in my life. What's that been like for you to hear from people who are benefiting from your story?
It's the icing on the cake. Well, no, the icing on the cake was being a bestseller, right? Like the purpose, obviously, for me was always to help motivate others and inspire others to not give up, right? Because God knows there were so many times where I wanted to give up, where it would have been the easy route, you know. But that was never my character, and thankfully, I wasn't raised that way. But I'm so happy I never gave up. I'm so happy I kept fighting, because now at the end of the day, how I not only do I have this incredible story to share with everybody, but I see life with a new perspective. And it's one which I cherish and one which I carry with me everywhere. So my goal was always to inspire others. And like I told my parents, I was like, when they told me that it was an Amazon bestseller, that it wouldn't have mattered to me if only my parents had bought a copy, you know, or if only one had sold. Like I would have still been content, because my motive and my determination to not give up, but also get this story out, because I had told them I was going to do it. And I've never been one to say I'm going to do something and not do it. So it just kind of made me realize, hey, I'm still the guy that before the accident, that's still me. He's still here. And that just gave me more positivity to keep going and go more towards more goals.
Okay, so here's the challenge then. What you said, you don't say you're going to do something and then not do it. What's currently on your list of things you're going to do, but you haven't done yet?
100% gonna turn this into a documentary and take it to Sundance.
Love it. Okay, so here's the commitment. When you're ready to do that, you need to tell us. We'll come on and we'll talk all about this. I love that kind of a goal setting, that vision off in the future. One of the testimonials from the book says, after following Cesar along his journey, I am forever changed. I will always be rooting hard for Cesar, and I am personally inspired to never, ever give up. I have to think that's music to your ears.
That's everything I wanted with my story and with my book. Just to help others not give up, you know, just hold on for one more day. My darkness lasted for 4 years, but at the end of the day, every night has to end, and you do see clearer skies if you just hold on for one more day.
Again, the book is called Chase the Light, The Gruesome Art of Becoming Unbreakable. And Cesar, thank you, man. I sure appreciate you sharing your story. And I have a feeling that you'll be fielding a lot of speaking invitations and opportunities to share it in person, if you're not already. And after the book becomes even more popular, the crazy thing is these days, there are 17,000 books being released every day. And so getting your voice out there is a difficult thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're already trending highly in the world of Amazon, where it seems like all books go to live or die. Yeah. That's a good start, man.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, this message was something that I wanted to get across to everybody. So I hope it changes lives like it has so far.